Hey, BassGeek here, and I'm about to show you something that nobody's really doing, nobody's talked about, nobody's making a head for it, so I use something a little different. We discovered this earlier this year, and man, has it paid off. That's right, geeks, I have got something that me and Mike sort of discovered earlier in the fall. Now, we've kind of played around with this for a little while, but I've got the exact setup. And this is something that you don't have to have forward-facing sonar. It's kind of how we figured it out, but you can go do this with this setup and catch some monster bass using finesse tactics. But we put a little bit of a spin on it, so it helps us pull those bass out of that heavy cover. Let me show you what it is. So what are we talking about? We are talking about a jig head minnow, but we're talking about fishing a jig head minnow like nobody else. At least nobody else I've seen talking about it is fishing it. I know there's a couple of jig head minnows out there with a weed guard, but I don't think anybody's fishing it in the deep crap like we're fishing it. So if you go back and you watch some stuff that I bought, it's an unboxing from Tackle Warehouse. And by the way, if you don't mind, make sure you either scan this code right here or make sure you go down to the description and you click on that Tackle Warehouse link, and be sure to bookmark that. Use that bookmark, whether it be on your phone or whether it be on your computer, to go buy from Tackle Warehouse. Now, it does cost you a single penny extra, but it does help out the channel. Helps us be able to put some gas in the old Merc back there, if you know what I'm saying. But in that video, you'll notice I bought a whole bunch of these little Ned Weedless heads. Now, me and Mike in the late fall got on a bite on some standing timber and in some brush piles where we were able to pull some pretty good largemouth out of. Actually, pulled a couple of pretty good crappie out of there too. And one of the things that kind of enlightened me, because I fished a ball head minnow over top of brush, but being able to stay back and bring it through weedless is a game changer. And I don't know why any companies aren't making a ball head like this, because being able to stay back and cast to it and bring it through that brush, over that brush, across those limbs, really was a game changer. You gotta have your setup a little bit different to wrench those fish out of there, but man, it is kind of like flipping with a spinning setup. Let me show you some of the components before we go on. So the good news is most of those bass, when they're in that timber or around that standing timber, they're not moving around a whole lot. So even if they're super deep, 30, 20, 30 feet, you don't really need a heavier weight. They're staying pretty much in a certain area. And I like tungsten because I can see it. It's going to stand out, especially when it's in all that gnarly stuff. That's hard to find, especially in your heavier weights. And realistically, 1/8 and 1/4 is about all you want. Now, I was able to get some of these. I'm not sponsored by these companies, really never used them, so we just been kind of playing with them. This is the Deadly Nedley. This is from Arsenal Tackle. This is a tungsten head, and it's a 1/8 ounce. Next up, this is from Lifted Jigs, and this is an 1/8 ounce here. Now, this is lead, and this is most of the time about the heaviest that I'm going to use, and this is 1/4. The 1/8 ounce is generally my go-to, so today that's what we're going to tie on. I'm going to show you how I rig these up. So I'm going to tie this on, and basically all I'm going to do, I don't use a loop knot for this. I want to be in total control of this bait while it's in the wood. So I'm either going to use a San Diego jam knot, or right now I'm just going to use a pit seam knot. We're going to wrap this thing about 7 times. Come through that top loop. And then we're just going to cinch it down. Then of course we go ahead and we cut that tag in. And there we have our hook. Now, let me show you some of the baits that I like to use on this. Now, the good thing is you can use some pretty interesting colors. I like to keep it pretty straightforward. I do like to stand out a little bit, so you know, my Damiki is going to be one of my go-to baits. This Damiki is the Pearl White. Again, that's the armor shad. Now, one that's super durable, and we've had a lot of luck on it. This is the Baby Z2, and this is in Gray Glimmer Pearl. And you can tell that's that stretchy plastic, so it really does last for a while. Now, when you put it up on the head, you might want to put a dab of glue to hold it up there. And last but not least, one of my favorites is by Ramsey Baits. This is just his 3-inch soft jerk bait. So now, the one we're going to be using today, because I want a little bit of color, a little bit of brightness, we're in a little bit of dirty water here right now, is the Damiki Armor Shad in that pearl. And so one of the great thing about these is they've got a hollow belly. To rig them up and to put them on, all you want to do is really come right through about half of that hook. Come right out the bottom, roll it around. These lifted have got a nice little elbow to them, so they tend to stay put. Then what I do is I just roll it to the back, come straight out, and I just skin hook that bait. There you have it. So now you're weedless. You can come right across anything you want. Hey geeks, before we go on, make sure you go check out Ionic batteries. Let me tell you, if you're powering anything, your graphs, your boat, your kayak, listen, they've got an incredible little 16 volt. And I don't know this for sure, I don't know that it's out, and I might be telling you something that I shouldn't right now, but I'm almost positive they've got a smaller version now of the 16 volt battery that's designed for small boats and kayaks. So you can power a lot of stuff, including your forward-facing sonar out on those kayaks. Make sure you go check out Ionic batteries, Ionic lithium batteries. I've got a 10% discount code right here. Make sure you go check them out. They power the Green Goblin from front to back, up and down and sideways. Now this is where the rubber meets the road. You're gonna have to upsize your spinning reel. I still like to do this on a spinning reel. You can do it on a bait caster, on a little bit of lighter bait caster. I still like to do this on a spinning reel. Now, I've got some of the TFO Pro Heavy. This is a heavy rod. It is a 7-foot heavy fast action rod. And I use this a lot of times for those big heavy minnow baits, like when the smallmouth are down in 75 and 80 feet, we're using that 3/4 and that 1 ounce and even heavier bait to get down to them. But it works great with this. There's a little something that you have to tweak. When I'm using that out there in open water, I'm going to be using, say, 8-pound, even 6-pound test Pro 100 K9. I'm going to go up to 10 or 12. I really like 12-pound Pro 100. You might even want to go to 15 on here. And then that's just going to be a leader. It's only going to be about 5 to 8 feet, because then this setup, I want at least 20-pound braid. And that is the K9 braid on here. You want something that is going to be heavy, because you're going to be basically flipping. You're going to be flipping for suspended bass in trees and laydowns. This rod and reel combo is going to be something you're going to want to be able to horse those fish out of that tree, or at least work with them on it. Now, my reel is the Lose Speed Spin. Good reel for the money. I think it retails for like 59 bucks. But this reel, we've had a couple of failures right in this area on some of these. It's a good reel. Love the drag. For the price, this is probably one of the best reels out there. But it's just, I know on the new ones they're making this solid. So let's hope that solves that problem. But a really good reel. I mean, component wise, it's really incredible. It's just that one spot. Again, back to the rod. This thing is a beast. And believe it or not, this rod, I think retails for about 130, 135 bucks. Again, links in the description to everything. And you know, I love my canine. Now, the good thing about this, just like when it comes to any jig head, and if you guys don't have forward-facing sonar, I'll again leave links to a great video at the end talking about how to use a jig head minnow without forward-facing sonar. So many good ways. So, you know, we've done it for years before we ever even knew what forward-facing sonar was. We've used jig head minnows to catch a ton of bass. All that being said, you don't have, this is what's great about this technique, you don't have to have forward-facing sonar to do this. Does it help? Well, yeah, of course, it helps in every single application there is to fish anymore, but you don't have to have it. You can literally take and throw this little bait into a tree and just feel it across everything. And you'll know when you get bit. It's just like flipping. For me, I like to stay back off of the trees that I'm fishing. I like to stay back off and work my way in. That deep edge is key. Sometimes you can use a drop shot to do this, but what I like about this is that I can continuously control the depth without having to continuously change leader length. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay back off of them and I'm gonna make a cast to them because I can drop it right down there and work it back. But now I don't wanna make too long of a cast. I don't wanna be over a lot of stuff and have to drag that bass through. This is still spinning gear, even though it's heavier. So maybe over a branch or two. So you're gonna be closer. You're not gonna make a 30-foot cast or an 80-foot cast. It's still, treat it like flipping. It's gonna be 10, 20 feet at best. You're gonna be in close proximity. You wanna be able to set that hook and bring them straight up out of there. Other than that, you're gonna throw it in there and you're just gonna work it. If you've got forward-facing sonar, you know how to keep it above and in front of those bass. If you don't, then you want to just give it, you make 2 or 3 casts at that log or at that lay down or at that brush pile and try it at different depth levels. It's going to be a trial and error game, but trust me, a lot of times you set that minnow in there and you sitting there just shaking that little minnow, you are going to get whacked because they're going to come up and eat it. Like I said, I do not use a loop knot for this, because I don't want it swinging around out of control. I want full control of this. To me, I feel like if you drop it down on them, they're gonna eat it or they ain't. Now, when it comes to hook set, you're gonna hook set straight up. Don't power, don't slackline them or, hit them so hard you can't stand it, but hit them and get them coming, turn their head. It's not a flipping stick, so you're not hitting them quite as hard, but you're still going to jerk a knot in the rear ends, get them coming, get them up, and get them out of there. And one of the other reasons why I don't want to hit them real hard is because I haven't found any baits that have a heavy wire hook on this so that we can actually get this in there. Like I said, you could probably fish this with a casting setup, but for me, I just feel like I'm in more control with this right here. We've drug out some pretty decent fish already on, when we were just testing this, and it was just on, basic medium fast stuff. So it works. And as far as, getting them in the boat, you can either reach down there and grab them. If it's a bigger one, reach down there or get your net, put them on your thumb, get them in the net, or boat hop those suckers. It's a heavy, fast action. Boat hop them, get them in the boat. Have a good time with this, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of times when there's some really good bass in some trees, and that little tiny bait right there is gonna catch you some big ones. You better hang on. So give this a try. I know there's people other than me that has to be doing this, and we have got turned on to it this year, just playing around and trying to figure it out. Get out there and run those jig head minnows through some trees and some brush piles. We know a lot of people throw them over top brush piles. I call it dipping. Dip that jig head minnow down into that tree and pull you out a toad. Now, if you want to learn more about how to use jig head minnows without forward-facing sonar, make sure you go check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. 100% Watch Squad, you geeks know I love you. You make the Bass Geek world go round. As always, you geeks rock.